What if you could do marketing and you didn't have to be an expert? And the reason that we want to talk about this is when Claudia and I talk to our clients, they come to us with incredible frustration. And I actually had been there myself in my first business, literally sobbing in my car, listening to yet another marketing podcast and thinking, this isn't for me. This is for creative people, smart people, people who have been trained to do this. And so Claudia and I get this question a lot. Do I need to be a marketing expert? Do I need to be trained? Let's talk about this. So welcome, Claudia. Good morning. Well, good morning from America. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon from the Netherlands.
Good afternoon from the Netherlands. So let's talk about, first of all, the overwhelm that people are feeling, because that's really what brings up this frustration and, in my case, the sobbing.
Yes, definitely. The overwhelm is a very natural result of what's going on in the market, right? Because every time you open Facebook or you open Instagram or you open LinkedIn, you have this storm of offerings and new platforms and new shiny things. And then you are just, managing to learn and figure out LinkedIn or Facebook ads or whatever, and there is a new thing. So, yes, of course, you have this feeling of overwhelm because you're constantly starting again from zero,
Right.
So, for instance, the people who jumped into Clubhouse, they forgot everything, jumped into Clubhouse, and now they have empty hands because if it's not dead yet, it's an announced death. So, answering your question, you don't need to be an expert in marketing. You just need to use your common sense in marketing. Mm-hmm. And in our chat yesterday that had nothing to do with this, you mentioned that you needed to trial and you needed to find your personal style. And I think that is paramount when you do marketing. You need to find your personal style and see what works there.
I want to talk about that for just a second before we move into what we should do instead. But because it's really hard when you get messaging from expert after expert that here's this system, or somebody telling you, oh, this is the next thing on the horizon, and I've done the research, and if you're not doing this tactic, you're going to miss out. It's almost like we have to put on our filtering capabilities and say, okay, and is that worth my time? Is that where I will feel comfortable? Will I be able to show up there? Will that move my needle forward? It's that critical thinking that we need to really trust ourselves that we're smart enough to be able to do.
Yes, and you have to open the hood, and look underneath. And the thing is, ask yourself, when you see those solutions, ask yourself, where are you in your own process? Is this something you need now? Is this something that's going to help you now, or is this something that's going to stretch you too far too thin?
Yes.
And the way to prevent that is when you develop a plan and track against goals. So the moment you have a plan, and for making a plan, you don't need to be a marketeer, you need to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So you do a plan, and when you have your goals, you can bounce those ideas and that input against that plan. Mm-hmm. And you can say, okay, how is this playing into my plan? How is this going to help me to move the needle? And that is the critical thinking you mentioned at the beginning of this question. We really have to stop the automatic pilot.
Yes, because we're constantly starting from scratch every time we do it. Yeah. So you said you told me there are a handful of things we need to do every day to be successful, and they're not exhausting and they're not that hard. So you told me you can control your marketing if you just do these things every single day. So let's talk about what those are.
As entrepreneurs, we have a lot on our plate, right? And we're wearing so many hats. So the bottom line is that we need to do a handful of things every day to be successful. The first one I just mentioned, which is to develop a plan and track against your goals. So you need to prioritize your day-to-day activities. You need to establish your priorities for the day and decide exactly what you need to accomplish that day. When you have that and you have done that, then you can spend time overwhelming yourself about what you're going to eat tonight, right?
Right.
Which is also a vital question. But, but the moment the thing is, our mind needs guardrails to function.
Yes.
Plan and structure and to-do list or to achieve things on that day are guardrails for our mind. So the moment you start to you jump into Facebook and you go into a rabbit hole, you will avoid that when you have a plan to which you stick to, right?
Yes.
The other thing you have to do is keep the pulse of the market, because many times your product or your service changes because the market changes or there is a new trend in the market. And this is especially so for people in the health industry.
Okay.
So people who is in nutrition, they will see today you have keto, tomorrow you have whatever, and then you have nutrition. And so essentially what changes there is the trend. And you need to evaluate if you are going to jump into that trend or stay where you are and change, adapt your message, right?
So I want to just ask a question about that.
Yeah.
I want to make it clear, when you're talking about marketing trends, you're talking about trends in the marketplace, which
Yes.
is different than a trend that comes up that is a marketing tactic. And I think people get confused about those two things.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. You're completely right. Trends in the market, yes. So you have to see where the market is going, and if it's a trend or if it's something that's really, for instance, climate change is not a trend. Climate change, the moment it gathers momentum, it's going to be like a wave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but nutrition, there are so many trends in there.
Mm-hmm.
Fashion, another.
Right.
Social media platforms, likewise. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to keep the pulse on the market, because sometimes it is a trend, and with small changes in your language, you can adapt to the trend without, having to start from zero. Keep track of the numbers.
Okay, that's the third thing.
Yes. Keep
Measure
track
yourself.
of the numbers.
Okay.
Measure. You know that the number of likes is a vanity metric.
Yes. Yes.
Don't lose your time there.
Yes.
But check the visits to your website. Check how many people is viewing things. Check the interactions. That gives you a better, and you don't need to be a marketer for that.
That's right.
0 is a number and 1 is a number. So you don't need to. And then experiment. Experiment what works with you, Test different marketing channels that will work for you. See what works and what doesn't work. It's the digital world. If it doesn't work, you don't need to go to the printer and redo
So true.
the million flyers you did. So, if it's not working, change it.
It's so true.
It's the digital world. I mean, there is an advantage there. So what I would do is then again, find what works for you, because that is what will allow you, and they can be expert, everybody's an expert in their thing, but you're a business owner. You know what's best for you.
I want to talk about that a little bit in terms of what you see with your particular industry, because I think it's really helpful to give people examples of, in your industry, which is you're a marketing expert, and what is it that you're seeing happening in the market with your audience and your clients that you have maybe had to, you're like a brook and you have to go around a rock and over, a waterfall?
What I'm seeing is that the people I work with, which is entrepreneurs who have been in business for about 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. So they're not starting, but they have done a lot of trial error. They are fed up of another online course or self-paced online course. They are better served by somebody who looks at their business with them. Mm-hmm. So as an entrepreneur, I still need to have my business that is scalable, because I can help so many one-on-ones at the same time.
So true.
So there is a part of my business that is structured, which is my roadmap. But I adapt my roadmap, or the tools I use in my roadmap, to the specific situation of my clients. Mm-hmm. So I am balancing there the need of tailor making, mm-hmm. the need of, zooming into one business and still keeping it scalable. It doesn't take me more time to help one person if I wouldn't do it that way.
Yep.
So
I think for my people, the shift I'm seeing is this one size fits all promise that they had been kind of sold for a long time in the marketplace. And maybe it worked for a long time, but the market has shifted to where one size fits all doesn't feel good anymore. It doesn't work anymore. And it also doesn't quite make room for somebody's personality to come out. In the market that I work in, people have been in business for, 0 to 5 years, and they just have not been able to get traction. And sometimes they don't know what their voice is. They don't know how to create content that feels like them. And they've been kind of doing this plug and play thing. But what they're ready for now is to filter out what doesn't work and customize it to themselves.
Yes,
and
but still in that situation, you are better off when you have somebody who helps you to look at it and translate it to your business.
Oh yeah, I agree. And that's why, I have a couple of digital workshops for people, and I offer that for the people on my list who maybe want that. But ultimately, the clients who get the best results are the ones who show up on a live call with me, even as a group. They really do. So yes, it is that for me, what my clients want, the trend in my market is they want to be seen and they want to have feedback on what they're trying to say. So yes, I agree with you. People, this plug and play thing just doesn't really work for them. Those are the trends.
The thing with the plug and play is that a lot of entrepreneurs, to scale their business, create these one-run programs, And what happens is they have a solution, and you have to adapt your problem to that solution.
That's right.
So that gives you the feeling of being in a straitjacket, because you are trying to translate the examples or the cases or whatever to your own business. And that gives you this straitjacket feeling.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work anymore, because entrepreneurs have become very, very wise. They see the BS from far away.
Yes.
Especially if you've been an entrepreneur for a couple of years, you already know what might or not work for you.
That's right.
And you have this experience that if I give you small input, you can use that and work that. So yes, the plug and play, I am curious how is that going to pan out in a couple of years from now, and what adaptations people will have to do.
Yeah. And then, so I just want to wrap up by saying one of the things that Claudia talked about was experimenting, this idea of experimenting. The nice thing in the digital space is, it's both, it's a positive and a negative. That the negative is people move quickly and they don't have a long memory and, blip, and they're moving on. But we can use that to our benefit to experiment with our offer or our voice or our marketing or how we're going to deliver something and see, is it resonating with people?
Yes,
so experimentation.
Yes, and if you don't have many followers or you don't have a big audience, even smaller, the quote unquote damage. Yeah. So, it's if you have a small group of people following you and they are not very engaged, that's the perfect playground to experiment without long-term disasters. And, practice makes perfection. So experimenting is a big part of that.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to say here, this is a great place for people to figure out what their marketing style is, because when you got your expertise in whatever it is, you didn't expect to become a marketer. And I just really want to honor that it's really freaking hard for people who are like, I'm a coach, I'm a designer, I'm a stylist, whatever you are, you're like, and now I'm a freaking marketer too, and I'm exhausted by it. So finding your strengths in marketing is something that we talk about all the time. And I know you have a quiz about that. So I'm going to direct people to your quiz to help them figure out what is their marketing strength, because once you give yourself permission to figure out this is what I like and I don't want to do this, at least you can get started.
Definitely, yes. It's very important, because then again, marketing is a long-term game. You can't enter into it like if it's a sprint, it's a marathon. Mm-hmm. So you need to figure out ways that will allow you to be consistent and stay there for the long run.
Yes.
And finding out what aligns with your strengths, your natural strengths, is one of the steps that will allow you to do that.
Yeah. And if you are struggling specifically with content, that's what we work on in the Content Creator Studio, where we find your voice, we find your style, we find the platforms and the strategies that work for you. So I'll put the links to both of those in our comments below. And as always, if you have a question and are struggling with, that parking lot moment where you are sobbing like I was, thinking like, this is just for the really smart people or the big names, it doesn't have to be that way. And you just need some realistic strategies that you can chip away at every single day.
Just want to add one thing. I have a BA in marketing and I have a master in marketing. When digital marketing exploded in 2012, I felt I had fallen from a coconut tree.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
I was like, what happened here?
Yeah.
Really, and I had solid marketing knowledge. And I was scratching my head like, oh my God, what happened here? So, it happens in the best of families.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because that should give it was kind of like a level playing field.
Yeah, I started from scratch, and I felt all my marketing knowledge wasn't of any use, only for big companies. Yeah.
And I kept saying, I'm too dumb for, I really thought I was dumb. I have 2 master's degrees in education. I'm not dumb, but it just made me doubt myself so much in that constant overwhelm and confusion. And then of course the fire hosing of the new strategies and the new tactics, it'll just wear you down. So that's why we really wanted to have this conversation today. So we would love to hear from you. What questions do you have? You can always tag us and we'll come back and answer them. But we wanted to thank you for being here. Claudia is the expert in marketing that can really get you out of that overwhelmed swirl. And I'm the content creation expert. And we do work together, but we would love to meet you one-on-one. So let us know how we can help. Claudia, thank you so much for being here again today.
And for inviting me again. It's a pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.